She thought the cameras had already moved away. That's the detail people keep missing. For a split second during the live broadcast, Queen Letizia's expression completely changed. Not the polished royal smile, not the carefully controlled public face Spain is used to seeing, but something sharper, almost frustrated. And the internet caught it immediately. Not 5 minutes later, not after a newspaper report. Immediately, clips started spreading across TikTok, X, YouTube Shorts, everyone zooming in on the exact same moment, trying to figure out what she had seen, who she reacted to, and why King Felipe suddenly looked unusually tense right after. And honestly, I think the reason this clip exploded has very little to do with drama, and everything to do with how people see royal families in 2026. Because audiences today aren't obsessed with perfection anymore. They're obsessed with catching the moment the mask slips. That's what this felt like. And whether people support Letizia or criticize her, one thing became obvious over the last 48 hours, the public is no longer watching the Spanish royal family casually. They're studying them emotionally now. Every glance matters. Every pause matters. Every tiny reaction becomes a full-blown narrative online. And to be honest, I think Queen Letizia understands that better than anyone inside the palace. Which is exactly why this moment felt so unusual. Because Letizia rarely loses control publicly. Rarely. That's been part of her image for years: composed, intelligent, strategic, disciplined. Almost too disciplined sometimes. So when viewers suddenly noticed what looked like genuine irritation flash across her face on live television, people immediately sensed something real had slipped through. If you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe, I post every day. Now here's where my opinion probably differs from a lot of the headlines you've seen. I don't think this moment was some huge royal scandal. Honestly, I think the internet loves exaggerating normal human reactions into palace conspiracies. But I also think moments like this reveal something much deeper about the pressure building around the monarchy right now. And specifically around Letizia herself. Because whether people admit it or not, Queen Letizia is carrying one of the hardest roles in modern Europe. Think about it for a second. She entered the monarchy as an outsider, a journalist, a professional woman, someone who understood media better than most royals ever could. At first, that made her look refreshing, modern, different, but now, that same media awareness may actually be trapping her. Because she knows exactly how brutal public perception can become. She knows one facial expression can become a global headline within minutes. And that changes how people behave psychologically. You become hyper-aware of every movement, every blink, every interaction. Honestly, it must be exhausting. That's why when I saw the reaction online to this live TV moment, my first thought wasn't, what is Letizia hiding? My first thought was, how much pressure does someone have to live under before even a 3-second reaction becomes international discussion? And I think that's the hidden story here. The Spanish monarchy is entering a dangerous phase where emotional control matters more than tradition. That's the shift happening across royal culture globally. Look at Britain for example. Prince William and Catherine still represent that polished, controlled royal image. Very traditional, very careful, but Leonor's generation, completely different energy, more emotional visibility, more authenticity, more vulnerability, and Letizia is stuck between those two worlds. That's why her role fascinates people right now. She's trying to protect the institution while also raising a daughter who belongs to a completely different media era. And honestly, I don't think the palace fully knows how to handle that transition yet. There's another layer here nobody's really talking about either. The public's relationship with royal women has changed dramatically. Years ago, queens and princesses were expected to look untouchable, elegant, perfect, calm at all times. Now, people almost search for flaws intentionally because flaws feel authentic. It's strange when you think about it. The exact thing royal families spent decades trying to avoid, emotional visibility, is now the thing audiences connect with most. That's why clips like this spread so aggressively online. Not because people necessarily dislike Letizia. Actually, I think it's the opposite. People are trying to figure out who she really is underneath the protocol. And moments like this feel like accidental honesty. That's incredibly powerful in modern media. You know what this situation honestly reminds me of? It reminds me of celebrities who become so media trained that the smallest unscripted reaction suddenly feels enormous. It's almost like when Mr. Beast pauses unexpectedly during an interview and the internet spends days analyzing it because audiences are constantly searching for realness. That's exactly what's happening to royalty now. The monarchy has entered the algorithm era. And algorithms reward emotion more than perfection. That changes everything. Because institutions built on control don't thrive in environments driven by emotional reaction. And honestly, I think Queen Letizia understands this battle better than most people around her do. Which is why this moment probably frustrated her even more. Not because of what happened live, but because she already knew exactly what would happen online afterward. The clips, the theories, the dramatic thumbnails, the body language experts suddenly appearing everywhere. It becomes impossible to stop once the internet senses emotional tension. But here's my hot take that might surprise some people. I actually think moments like this help the monarchy more than they hurt it. Seriously, because the biggest threat to modern royal families isn't criticism. It's emotional disconnection. The moment people stop feeling curious about these figures, the institution starts fading culturally. But moments like this, they create emotional investment. People suddenly debate motivations, pressure, personality, relationships. That means the monarchy still feels emotionally relevant to audiences. And relevance is survival now. That's why I think the palace's strategy around Leonor has become so interesting lately too. Notice how much coverage focuses on her military training, pressure, discipline, effort, not just glamour. That's deliberate. It's the monarchy adapting to a generation that values struggle over symbolism. And honestly, Leonor seems naturally better suited to that media environment than previous generations were. She feels less royal performance, and more young woman under pressure. That connects instantly online. But for Letizia, the challenge is different. She's expected to maintain authority, composure, elegance, and emotional restraint simultaneously while also appearing relatable enough for modern audiences. That's almost impossible, and I think this live TV moment exposed that impossible balancing act for a second. You could almost see the exhaustion underneath the discipline. Not dramatically, not openly, just enough for people to notice. And honestly, that tiny crack in the image probably made her feel more human to viewers than 20 perfectly managed appearances ever could. There's something else I've learned watching royal coverage lately. The public often projects their own emotions onto these families. Some viewers saw frustration in Letizia's expression. Others saw sadness. Others saw stress. That says just as much about the audience as it does about her. Because modern royal storytelling has become interactive now. People don't just consume royal news anymore. They emotionally participate in it. That's why a single live television moment can dominate conversations for days. It becomes bigger than the event itself. And honestly, I think that's exactly why Queen Letizia remains such a fascinating figure in Europe right now. Not because she's perfect, but because she constantly exists at the collision point between tradition and modern pressure. And every now and then, live television accidentally reveals just how heavy that pressure really is.